Oxygen's on the attacks. They're going to get the two inner ones. Starting off with our first attacker ban is going to remove Hibana from the mix initially as Soniqs take their first operator out of the pool.
There's a lot of different ways to put some obstacles in front of the offense, as well as the defense inside of these operator bans, and Hibana is going to be the one to start us out. She's just so damn good at getting those hatches open, and not having her is definitely going to be something that both the offenses wish they had. And speaking of that, Thatcher is also going to be removed off the board.
Taken away. So far, no huge surprises when it comes to the eliminations on the ban pool here. Mirror is going to be next up once again, still a mainstay when it comes to quite a few of our maps, and as such, quite a mainstay when it comes to the ban pool as well, as Mirror will be removed once again here.
And waiting for this last ban now from the Soniqs. A Valkyrie going to come out, and a routine one for multiple squads, but definitely one for Soniqs as well. Just so much intel being provided from Valkyrie, even post-nerf, that you just really don't want to allow her to be inside of the pool. Way too many people are good on this operator, so might as well remove her. And for the Soniqs, they already have some plans in play to try and make other things work around the map. We'll be jumping in with Soniqs on defense. Oxygen obviously going to be covering the offense for us here, and we're going to have some interesting things to talk about already. Competitive Siege recently has been pretty interesting to watch, especially with Finka coming into the mix. We've been seeing her so much more. Saw her at the Sweden Major quite a bit. Those frag grenades as well as the buffs that she's had recently, seriously helping her out.
Yeah, so let's see once again here now how these two teams are going to try and dance around each other. No surprise for the Soniqs will be going right to a basement defense that has been the mainstay, not only for them, but for quite a few of the North American teams here in the league to go right to that one, as this is, generally speaking, the most straightforward to hold on to as a defender. For the attackers, there's quite a few different ways you can approach this site, more than likely having an emphasis on one of the three main routes we see teams normally pursuing, either through laundry on the bottom of your screen, the Frazier on the left side of it, or the construction on the top right, supported by another angle more than likely going to be added to that in the last minute or so of the round as well. We'll see if Oxygen's going to be able to properly set up for that and pinch Soniqs out of this very bunker-heavy setup.
Yeah, one that we actually don't see too often coming into the basement right now for the Soniqs is Maestro. This is something that we don't see too much traction out of usually, but a great pick nevertheless, especially with the Evil Eyes and the way that they're going to be able to use those for info across the board. You can see Grixer setting this up now as well, so that Evil Eye is not only going to cover laundry, but also some area inside of Freezer, and it's not going to risk anybody's lives. So, very nice setup so far from the Soniqs. Also going to have Yeti out here on an extended hold as of right now, all the way over towards Showers. Could see some early stuff going down, but more than likely a better call to rotate back, and that's exactly what Yeti will do.
Yeah, not going to see anything transpire out of that. As soon as he hears the bullets coming from behind him, since there's a focus on small tower, he gets the heck out of there and proceeds to a much safer position down the stairs. Despite, as well, you can see the clear coming in from the OXG members, most notably Yaga, as he pushes forward here, trying to contend with any potential setup that might be lurking over towards security or inside of the kitchen. But as you guys can see at home through the silhouettes, there's not much to be seen there. So the Soniqs are going to back away, play entirely into the basement here, and allow Oxygen to get the very early full clear on the first floor.
Yeah, straightforward for Oxygen. Soniqs is going to lean on utility here and see what they can do with this intel game. I like this so far. They got the Evil Eyes as well as the BP on Kansan, so should be pretty solid for intel as to where Oxygen are going to come in from. Now, it's just getting down to those dying moments and see what Oxygen want to do with that. We've been seeing a lot of teams early on today, or earlier with Pengu and Parker casting, with those off-kilter executes, where it's very early on in the round in comparison to what we usually see in Siege, was that last dying minute. When people are ready, they're there and ready to go, so we'll see if we see that out of Oxygen as well. Could have some early time to execute to really throw Soniqs off kilter.
Trying to look for an option to deploy downstairs himself, but since he is going to be on a very utility-heavy operator, would be very bold of him to try and go down on his own, so we won't be seeing much of that. He'll back away, regroup with the rest of the team, and focus on the main push, which is still being kind of formulated at the moment here by Oxygen, as they are putting a big focus on that hatch to work their way down into electrical, and then deploy from there. This is another one of the go-to attacking strategies. I failed to mention this earlier, but this is oftentimes where we see teams trying to deploy towards Swell. You'll now see the rotate coming out from Oxygen as they move a few players over towards the construction avenue to try and open up a second angle of attack.
This is fantastic from Oxygen thus far, using the entire team to clear out that mid floor as well as the top floor. Make sure you got no roam game. Make sure everything's secured before adjusting to what you want the execute to look like initially. I mean, look at the time right now. Foxay already getting a pick as well at 1 minute and 5 seconds. This is looking so solid for the Oxygen squad thus far. They're going to take down Super as well. Just stuck his neck out a little bit too far right there. But finally, the Soniqs will fire back. Vertical will fall, and Kansan looking for one as well.
Initial exchange is found, yes, but the Soniqs still sit behind by a player at this point. However, with time getting low, Oxygen are going to begin to be pressured here, and that's where the mistakes could begin to show up for the attack and the chance for Soniqs to come back in this round to be found here. Most notably, Kansan still waiting out. a little bit further down the construction hallway, trying to see if he can potentially find out some of the members of OXG as they work their way in. As once again, OXG starting to get low on time, starting as well to redirect players. There's going to be the first, I believe, Adrenal Sarge working its way out for Oxygen, and as well, the first trade from Kansan as they start to put down this attacking push. Yaga, though, and Foxe will immediately trade out both of those frags as Rexen and Grixer go down. Kansan being left alone, and not for long either, as OXG quickly clean up shop and take the first round on the attack.
Seriously well done from Oxygen there. We'll see what the Sonics want to do later on, but those early picks coming out of Oxygen is really putting the nail in the coffin for Sonics. Really not much you can do there. Might just try and fight back on the entries, and they do that, but once you're already at such a man deficit, it's difficult no matter really what you do in a round of Siege to try and fight out of that. So for the Sonics, it's going to be back to the drawing board for this one, and they will send it back downstairs. This time around, we will be seeing the Goyo here, but Yeti's going to quickly switch that out for the Wamai. Grixer's still sticking to Maestro as well.
The losses being taken there in the early part of the round that brought it down to a 3v4, unfortunately just causing the members of the Sonics to have to split themselves up way too much. And in a site that's already fairly cut up in the way that it's usually defended, that is not a winning formula, unfortunately, for the Sonics here. So they're going to fall to pieces on that defense. The good news is, however, they've learned from their mishaps on the first rounds. They're going to go right back into it on round number 2 and see if they can quickly correct these mistakes and look to pick up their first round to tie us up at a potential 1-1.
Oh, very interesting here as well. Obviously, we're still going to have that Evil Eye combo with the BP from Kansan, so they're going to have solid intel still for this round, but Yeti also going to be bringing those sensors to make sure if anybody comes in close, they'll at least be able to have a beat from those proximities. So we'll see if that could possibly assist Sonics in anything. Could just be some assistance in that intel game, possibly Oxygen just getting a little too deep inside of sight without them realizing, and that's why those players went down, but we'll have to see. Obviously, those happening off screen, so don't exactly know where the dagger went from Oxygen. We just know it was there.
And Yeti's going to try to maintain this early advanced positioning. There was a drone somewhere towards Kitchen, though, that's more than likely already spotted him out. So if he's going to try to do anything sneaky here, he will more than likely be caught. And indeed, will once again just immediately fall back after being spotted out by his drone. Again, coming from that same position in Kitchen, he knows he's not going to be able to do anything aggressively without taking a massive risk for both himself and the team. So he falls back and is going to play into that defensive setup once again, just like the last round.
Yeah, it feels as though he's just doing that initially just to see if Oxygen will possibly take a little bit longer to look around showers and all that kind of stuff. But Oxygen has so much intel in this area, and especially around the space for free, so that they know that he's heading back down quickly. So not going to be too big of a deal for Oxygen to deal with. And I mean, look at this. We already have control across the entirety of the map. Vertical already inside of meeting. Oxygen are doing a bang-up job of getting control so early on, and Yaga already bearing down on the Sonics members in sight.
It's a little bit risky due to the operator that he's playing on specifically, but as long as he keeps his wits about him, this is going to be a very strategic hold as it prevents a large amount of rotates from Sonics of working their way into the freezer, which could act as a cutoff to the way that Oxygen is going to approach the site, should they approach it in similar fashion to the previous round. Still need to do some work on opening up the hatches, though, as we're seeing the freezer one popped open right now, and more than likely the other two to be worked on over the next 40 seconds or so here. Oxygen proceeding very much in the same way they did on the first round, and why shouldn't they? It went pretty much swimming with their first round attack there, so they can pretty much execute in a very similar fashion.
Yeah, patience is the game right now for Oxygen, but for the Sonics, they need to heed the warning as well. The oversight last round that ended up getting 2 people killed. They don't want to try and mimic that following up with round 2 here. For Oxygen, with all of this control right now, it's one overstep here for Sonics, and they'll start losing bodies. Frag Grenade's already out. Yaga will start clearing out this utility in this space, be able to get rid of the bulletproof as well as one of the Evil Eyes as Kansan tries to pressure, but with a lot of time still on the board, Kansan does not want to try and give this up too early.
Semi-cut-off deployed against Kansan from the laundry room now, so he's not going to be able to so easily swing into this freezer position. Still can do it, as you're seeing here, but just has to hug the wall now instead of taking the more forward approach that he had previously. Gonna fall back fairly quickly as well here, as now Grixer is going to take up a new position, but Yeti actually gets the kill, pushing a little bit closer to that freezer spot to knock out Yaga and get the first kill of the round, as we're now under 1 minute, and Oxygen going to panic a little bit at the loss of that player. They need to make that up quickly, and they may not necessarily have the time to do it. Laxing, though, with a very well-placed nade, does it anyway by knocking out Kansan, and now Foxe is going to look for an additional pickup here, still being held back in the freezer. He's not the only one as well. We're only just now seeing the end of Super Smoke Chain come in here as well, and that's not going to leave a whole lot of excess time. Grixer catches another mistake from OXG as Kino has got way too far into the open there, allowing for another kill to go by the way of the defenders.
The utility right now for the Sonics is paramount, is holding back Oxygen, but so is Grixer with the LMG. Can he get it done again? No, it's Rexen with the assist. Vertical more than likely not getting away with this as he simply tries to walk into Laundry. But that's going to be the Soniqs' very first round, and a very quick adjustment as well. Already seen the leadership from Super on display here. Everybody playing a little bit closer to the chest, not overstepping into those angles and losing people early on, leaning into that utility, especially to keep Oxygen at the gates, and it went off beautifully.
We saw there a little bit of utility working out for the attackers, but ultimately not nearly enough to get them into the site, as they were basically just trading one for one. And by the time we were down into that 4v4, we're already nearly at 30 seconds into the round. That's when the attackers are going to start getting stressed, going to be forced to make moves purely because they don't have enough time to play things carefully anymore. And like I said back in the first round, that's where mistakes start to pop up, and unfortunately was the case for OXGs. They just couldn't work their way in. But what is going to work its way in on the third round, that was a very interesting pick coming from Foxe.
Who even needs two hard breachers, John? I mean, honestly. But for Foxe, he's going to be bringing in the knock. Now, we'll have to see what the secondary utility is going to be, but right now, we still have some sneaky plays going on. As for the Soniqs, though, I really like their defensive setup downstairs, especially how it favors, more of that defensive playstyle up towards Laundry and that kind of thing. It's very difficult to get around that space. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about with Oxygen in that last one was I feel like the adjustment to the back end and actually attacking construction as well as Big Tower was the play there. That's a soft spot for the Soniqs, especially with the way that they were pulling their aggro in different directions. So for that, I think the Soniqs played extremely well into what Oxygen wanted to do. They wanted to try and change up where the execute was coming from, but that was Sonic's plan all along. They wanted them to attack from that direction, and it went off flawlessly.
And not only that, but OXG never, in my opinion at least, really got a full picture of what the defensive setup looked like down in the basement back in the first round. Because they had already killed two players before they even really entered it, except for maybe one of them. The setup was already in very weird shape for the Soniqs as Oxygen worked their way down there. So great adjustment from the Soniqs, and an unfortunate misstep from OXG that is going to cost them their first round, but it's only tied us up at 1-1. And as you can see, we're already well into the third round here. So let's take a quick look at what exactly we're going to get out of Oxygen this time as they try to clear out the second floor.
Well, this time Yeti will actually be on the roam. He'll be down in Kitchen. Not exactly the area that we'd seen him running around in previously. That was more towards the cafe area, but already some solid intel coming out of Foxe's drones in security. Yeti could be in some hot water right now and not even know it just yet. You can see the coiling of the snake as well. Yaga in behind, and that's going to be a drone sacrifice, but more than likely a kill coming through very soon, and that is exactly what it will be. Yeti ends up getting bodied. Same for yet another Rexen to fall, and wow, some beautiful shots from these Oxygen members.
Some great finds from Yaga. They're capitalizing again on the over-eagerness from Soniqs to try and trade out these kills. The second one is found, and only one exchange picked up from the Soniqs themselves here, so that brings it down to another dangerous point for the Soniqs, just like on round number 1, but it's a different site that allows for more movement freedom, so they're not out of the fight just yet, like they were back on the first round on basement here. Still plenty of opportunity for them to deploy, but at the same time, plenty of opportunities for Oxygen to quickly break this, now that they are a man up again.
Yeah, the only issue they're going to have right now is obviously losing Kino and don't really have access to things how they would necessarily want to, but the man count is definitely going to be a huge advantage walking into this. There's a lot of stuff that Foxe can do here, especially with these frag grenades. He's going to deal so much damage to Super, who's now even going to have to play more safe, as he's the only one with truly preventing secondary utility still in his pocket with that Nitro cell. Really wants to hold on to that, but there's so much time still left on this clock. Oxygen can work this in so many ways, especially with vertical still being up, have so much intel to try and search for these members, as well as just the constant barrage of frag grenades spilling in from this mid-floor.
Seeing the nade hunters come out here trying to desperately find that last bit of HP off of Super, but a moment of hope for the Soniqs as Kansan does catch the win against Foxe in the 1v1 to take him down and even out the player count here. A much slower Oxygen is being deployed. Yaga tries to bait off that Gemini clone, but it doesn't work out. We see a player from the Soniqs get behind coverage way too quickly as Kansan is going to hold the line. And now Laxon will be lost as well here. Vertical trades it out, but Kansan trades it right back down into an advantage for the Soniqs as only one will remain, in Kansan with a swift rotate can put himself in position to close things down as the Soniqs take the lead at 2-1.
That was beautifully done from the Soniqs, keeping them at the doors once again. It's what we saw in the second round, but This time, more with the fragging potential rather than the utility coming through. Soniqs really paying attention as to what Oxygen wanted to do with this space. A lot of people conjoining around White Stairs and made it very easy for the Soniqs to deal with this situation. It's 2-1 in favor of the defense.
And a great job from Super, ultimately just being a distraction there for a good minute or so in the round. Lots of nades chasing on him, coming very close. We saw that first one chunking off a good 70% or so of his HP, but at that point, we saw another 2 to 3 used against him, as well as at least one player trying to desperately take him out through the floorboards that ultimately never pans out as he just sits safely in the corner, allowing Kansan to go crazy when they finally push White Stairs.
I mean, just to quote the man, stats don't mean everything, and they really don't in Rainbow Six Siege. That's the funniest thing about it is, you know, you might carry your friends a lot, but if you wasted a lot more time and played with your team, you'd probably win a lot more, and that's the lesson that Super constantly teaches people every single time he plays professionally. It is not about your score, it is about winning the game. That's what it's about, and that's exactly what he did inside of that round. So, tip of the cap to Super. Doesn't even have a kill yet, but the amount of time that he wasted was so influential over that round.
We're going to see the more recent Sonic special come out here as Thunderbird is going to be brought into the play here. More importantly, those Kona stations are going to be deployed and enable Sonics to get a little bit more aggressive here, as those stations will enable players to get a little tiny boost. The most proficient way we've seen them use so far is players just kind of boosting themselves up, going for a little swing. That means they can take an extra bullet or two of damage there, allows them to play a bit more aggressively. As we've been seeing the Sonics definitely want to do inside of these first 3 rounds, but haven't always had the necessary capability to do so due to the conditions put on them by the Oxygen roster.
Yeah, she's like the light version of Finka, basically. Like,
yeah.
Finka's that operator nowadays, didn't always used to be, but nowadays where it's, hey, I want to have a brawl, we want to get in these gunfights, and Finka's going to assist you in doing that. Not only with the ability to heal you and everything else, but just having everything that she has nowadays, especially with the secondary frag grenades coming in, just makes it so much easier to play along with her. So having that potential to try and carry some more health into a gunfight is always going to be just a great thing to have in your back pocket. So we're seeing these on both ends as of right now, but I completely agree with you, especially with the Sonics coming through with the Thunderbird. We don't really get to see it all that often, but we get to see it whenever we see the Sonics, more specifically on Coastline. I'm happy that they've translated this over to Oregon, though.
Let's see now how our 4th round goes. The Sonics starting to build a bit of a lead for themselves here on the defensive side. 2 successful defenses in a row after they find the formula to work things out after some bumpy roads on the first round here. But now, inside of our 4th round, they are looking very much in control of this match, and it's Oxygen needs to find better footing, specifically inside of these late round executes to finally get them into the site. Clearing out roamers and extended players is not too much of an issue for them, but they get into the site and have to deal with the actual setup. That's where problems have been continuing to arise over the past 2 rounds.
ADS is in here for the Sonics, but obviously Ori being burnt is Super. Also be burnt alive from Yaga, bearing down on him from inside of Concrete. Rexon will actually fight back and be able to take him down. Yaga just letting it sing a little bit too long there, giving away that position and making it easy for the Sonics member. But Vertical will be able to fire back as Foxy's already made a line inside of the attic wall, and they'll finally get control of this top floor.
Vertical with a good trade out there. Once again, puts Oxygen into that pivotal 4 versus 3 position that they've been in so often here. Once again, going to have to work their way forward, but this time they have the vertical advantage. They're going to have these top-down angles against the Sonics, specifically on the inside of Kitchen there, that can more than likely be used to shut them down. And Laxing is going to be the one to open up all those angles as he's now entered the kid's bedroom here with the hammer in check. Does get a little bit of a fight against Kansan there as he peeks in slightly through the doorway, but ultimately doesn't lead to a whole lot as both players will back away from those positions.
Yeah, a little scary on that angle. Actually, if you lay down, you can see all the way behind the bomb chassis on that one as well into Cafeteria, which is terrifying. I mean, just look at this positioning right now here for the Sonics. They have a lot more influence over this position than you would initially give them, although all of this verticality is still going to be highly abusable from Oxygen. It's going to be up to them to get this right as to where the Sonics go. We could see them collapse onto this, and if they do it properly, Oxygen could be worse for wear going into this. Speaking of worse for wear, Grixer, he's going to be on an extended roam, and this could be for better or for worse, and oh no, it'll be Vertical with the turn on as it's all down to Yeti. He'll be able to at least get one, but won't even be able to see the feet of a single member. They'll all cross the drone holes, and Yeti won't be able to stop it. Laxing finds a man laying in the hallway, and he'll end it all as Auction tie things up.
Unfortunately, won't be able to see his last opponent there, Laxing, giving him the runaround as he shuts him down and shuts down finally a second round for Oxygen as they finally tie the record up here at 2-2, but that's on the weakest site, the tertiary site for the Sonics here, as they were finally forced into a first floor position. Laxing got it as well. You guys probably saw that, but he didn't even realize that was Yeti's body initially, as he thought it was a dead version of Yeti's body, but obviously not the case. What is going to be the case here, though, is Sonics rotating back to their original site as they head back into the basement for the first reattempt at this since they won it a few rounds back.
It's like we were talking about in the green room earlier. Prone actually is just one of the most broken things in Rainbow Six. It is really, really good. It can hide you. No one really expects someone to be on the floor either. Like, even right there, Laxing could have oversought that and immediately ran into security. And he possibly gets a kill through that drone hole. You never really know. But that's the game of Siege for you, folks. There you go. Tied up right now for Oxygen and the Soniqs. Soniqs, speaking of which, will be headed back downstairs. We saw them with a couple of unlucky picks early on inside of the first round, but the second round coming through with flying colors as they shut down Oxygen's take of Freezer as well as Laundry.
The question here is going to be one of adjustments from Oxygen, whether they're going to be able to learn from their mistakes and more than anything kind of avoid that Laundry and Freezer push that Soniqs was set up to counter against. But you're also going to see Soniqs still have quite a hefty setup to fend off that construction play that they used quite easily to win out the first round as well here. So time to wait and see what exactly is going to be the plan for Oxygen. We can already see one very obvious switch up in vertical, now bringing the Ying into the fold here to maybe make that execute a little bit more explosive this time, and I think that utility will certainly do the job quite well.
Yeah, that already kind of forcing them or more leaning towards that box execute that we see with the Ying, but that doesn't mean that they're hard pressed into that. They're not immediately committed just because they've brought the Ying, but something that we see extremely often with this operator. Obviously, you could still see them come through Freezer or any other spot, so we'll have to see what Oxygen want to do with this piece of the puzzle. As for the rest of the squad, though, they're still sticking to their guns as they've cleared out the mid-floor already. We'll have Yaga hop back into Freezer, so we'll see if he can continue to thwart Sonic's plans for the Laundry space here. As for the Sonics, though, they're going to keep things spread downstairs, still have solid intel across the board here, so they're going to lean onto that to try and see what Oxygen want to do with these opening minutes.
Yaga once again in that pivotal position at the bottom of the Freezer stairs. You're going to see if he can find himself an isolated gunfight or two, but once more than likely will not get that. The big contention this time, though, is going to be he does have some active pressure against him inside of the Freezer initially, which, because I don't think they've been able to go and actually open up the Freezer hatches yet, they're really not going to be able to push that back just as of yet here. There's still going to be some delay, and actually, to correct myself, we did just see that hatch get popped open a few seconds ago, so now that pressure can be deployed, and more than likely Sonic's going to have to respect that a tad more. Same can be said for the other hatches that they are being worked on, and there's a big stack of players building up towards that execute, surprisingly, into the Laundry side right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will play out for Oxygen due to what you were talking about before, due to where we normally see Ying get used more towards the electrical drop.
Oh, well, Yog, that's kind of got slapped on that one. That's just unfortunate. Cans him with very minimal shots, but amazing shots coming down through Laundry. They'll be able to get the initial one. We'll see if this slows down Oxygen at all. It's going to be a big player here being removed as Yaga will end up losing the Finka. Down to still an LMG in the pockets of vertical, but you can already see the drone economy starting to take a hit here. Minus Laxing and Foxe, so at least still have some intel to influence this last minute. For the Sonics, they're just going to sit on their hands. Don't really need to move too much as of right now, but as soon as I say that, that's immediately going to change up. The Candela's out, but Grixer still has the shots, as well as Super coming through with the Toxic Babe. He'll end up getting the case on the ground, and Oxygen, seemingly no answer for this.
The cutoffs are just far too harsh as they try to force their way in through Laundry once again, and as you see, everyone getting shut down, even not necessarily by the gun skill, but by the utility being deployed there as they try to force themselves in. I do respect that Oxygen tried to do this a little bit earlier in the round, but it's now left them in a very awkward scenario. It's just Laxing, and only Laxing here, as Fox has just been taken out by Grixer. Try to hold on inside of a 1v3 now and shut this down. Laxing specifically with really no safe path even into the site. All the attention going to go towards him. Super using one of his last Toxic Babes to block off the doorway just for that added layer of security. Rexen will handle things without too much of an issue. Another solid basement defense coming out from the Sonics here as they take the lead again as we get ready to head into our final round of the half.
That setup's just so strong towards the Laundry side, and you know, for Oxygen, I like the adjustment here. We're going to bring the Ying to try and get something going on in this space so they can try and pressure forward, but every single time that we see it, we constantly see all of these angles that are being abused from the Sonics as well, and how long distance they are, first of all. I mean, we have people playing all the way in the back towards Pillar. That's so many things you have to worry about initially, and Oxygen are just getting overwhelmed. I mean, even trying to run it with the Candelas, that's all fine and dandy, but everyone's not being blinded. They're just being chucked into Laundry. Everyone's got solid positioning inside a Freezer as well as Closet and possibly the the laundry machines over in the corner, and nobody's actually getting struck by those. So it's just kind of landing on deaf ears. Oxygen really aren't getting any value out of it. It's it's just all for naught really at the moment with the way that they're handling the basement right now. But luckily enough for them, they don't have to go and try and hit that yet again. It's going to be, at least for the Sonics, upstairs, and they will be headed to for this next round.
Unfortunately for Oxygen, this is also a site that the Sonics are currently flawless on when it comes to this hold, so we will have to wait and see what exactly goes on here during the course of this round, and more importantly, what adjustments Sonics are going to make to try to allow for easier entry into the site this time around.
Well, here's my question. What are we going to do with the Nook this time around? Because the last time that we saw it, it wasn't played in the traditional sense that we see a Nook, which is that, you know, very hidden play style, try and work her in, like, maybe in towards the basement, or just get her around some space where she can really abuse the camera usage of the defense. But for Foxay, he's mostly been on drones and trying to use those frag grenades to break up positionings on that top floor. So we could see him used here in a different way inside of this round. But overall, I still like the strategy here from Auction, even if they aren't leaning on Nook's utility. And oh no, Kino of all people is going to be the one removed. No hard breacher here for Auction on the top floor.
Laxing now needing to try and find a way to exchange this back out with the loss of Kino, who's been struggling in this game so far, as you can see, with a 1-5 scoreline after that most recent death. Taking on mostly hard breacher roles, this is a little bit hard to pick up frags sometimes in that department, but either way, lagging behind a bit here as the others try to pick up the slack, most notably Laxing and Yogg, who have been performing quite well inside of this match, but that little bit extra the team is to work themselves forward. Here's Super going to be, unfortunately, the hefty target of nades once again, as two explode very close to him and nearly knock him out as a result of that.
Scary moments here for Super, but he'll at least be able to cling to life for a couple more minutes here. We'll see how long that lasts. But as for Oxygen, they're on to trying to clear out the mid floor, and they actually have a body to worry about. It's going to be Yeti inside of security, at least for the time being. Has the hatch open, so he'll be able to rotate out if things get a little too hairy, but might have to do it here initially. So we see Oxygen ready for any moment or any move that the Sonics really want to make around this space. And he also has a rotate into kitchen here, but it's more than likely going to be cut off soon here from Vertical. As for Yaga, though, start pressuring White, just seeing if any of the Sonics members want to try and push forward, as finally Oxygen will get a break as they'll catch Rexon downstairs.
A good fight from Oxygen, a very much needed one at this point in the round two. The team was stagnating, didn't really seem to have many options when it came to pushing themselves forward. Oh, and another one's going to be found here, but this time it's for the defense as Yeti absolutely locks onto Yaga's head to knock him out with a TCSG. That slug shotgun doing its work quite well.
Yeah, something that we don't get to see too often, and Yeti actually going to get cut down here from the ARX of Vertical. Now onto White stairs. Case control, not in anyone's hands right now. Needs to be picked up if they want to have an opportunity to try and plant that, but also that might not even be the game plan as the damage starting to come through in massive heaps onto Sonic. Super at low HP, same as Grixer. These gunfights are going to be difficult going forward, especially with Vertical. The ARX just tears people apart. Laxing now, pretty cheeky angle, trying to abuse this hatch as much as possible, but this timer starting to dwindle as Oxygen needs to act.
Yeah, 20 seconds remaining. Someone's going to have to put their foot on the gas pedal soon here and get themselves into the site. They don't have time to analyze anymore. They still have 5 drones available, so lots of intel should be flowing in from the dead players here if they can get those drones into correct positions. But Kansan strikes first here against Foxay. Down goes the Nook Vertical. It's pretty much out of play now at such low HP. Laxing's got to be the hero here, and he's immediately dropped. The Sonics will easily pick up a second defense on their upstairs hold, and as well, a 4-2 lead coming out of the initial half.
These are just such solid defensive rounds with the way that the Sonics are handling Oxygen's aggression. Always holding them right outside of sight and not scared to contest. This is something that we've been seeing across the board in Rainbow Six Esports. LATAM especially playing that playstyle quite a bit. Granted, it's a little bit more extravagant in the way that they handle their maps. I mean, everyone saw Team 1 with Consulate in the Mexico Major. You know, when you're playing the top floor that aggressively, when you're actually playing the basement, that's a little bit different. But Sonic's still pushing it to the limit inside of the site, and that's what I'm really appreciating right now. Just not giving Oxygen that foothold that they're looking for so desperately.
We are seeing some mistakes occasionally, but where they're already being spotted is relatively easy to fix, and usually players just getting slightly over-aggressive. That's just a simple call from Super. Hey, Yeti, don't do that.
Yeah, just boom, don't get overzealous. That's really what it is. You do not want to give up that round, especially when it's so easily going into your pocket. Now, the big thing is, guys, we've reached the halfway mark. Now, I know these rounds have been coming pretty fast and quick so far, but the Sonics have been dastardly on that defense. 4-2 split. Oxygen only able to muster those 2 rounds, and to be honest, they didn't look that great. Coming into this defensive side, I seriously want to see a change up in the way that the team's operating.
Good news is, once again, the defense oftentimes presents some fairly easy opportunities to pick up rounds, especially if your basement defense, as well as the upstairs defense, is going to be up to snuff for what the attackers bring to the table, as we saw in Soniqs' initial play on the first half there, despite the mistakes made in the first round. So time to see if Oxygen can bring something similar to the table. We've got an Ella pick being brought out for them, which is going to be interesting to see how that gets played out, more than likely mainly around the staircase, but aside from that as well, usual spread of utility here, most notably the Goyo brought in this time as the main piece of delay utility down in the basement.
Also, I'm a huge fan of what the Soniqs have done with the hard breachers here inside of this one. Super's going to be bringing the secondary hard breach on Ying, and then Yeti on the Maverick. Now, the reason I'm favoring this a little bit more isn't just, you know, because of the destructibility of Thermite. It's mostly the gun. You know, giving the Soniqs some better weaponry is definitely going to make things a little bit easier for them. And you can see that inside of Kino's scoreline. You know, Thermite's not a slouch when it comes to gunfights, but when you're consistently fighting against those SMGs and some of these better weapons in close range, it's super difficult to try and win out those gunfights, especially if you just aren't hitting your headies that day. So for the Soniqs, this could favor them in a couple of different ways. We've seen Yeti on Maverick so much this season, so should be pretty solid on that M4.
Time to see now, however, things are going to continue to deploy that way for the Soniqs. Yeti specifically trying to open things up for his squad, and most of just trying to get enough of a hole in there so that this will fully breach the hatch, and indeed it shall, as they are going to work their way past that one. Another one going to come out here more than likely in a second from Super as well, to quickly deal with the E hatch to work their way down to electrical as well. The Ying Candle is also being deployed there quite early on by Super in the process, so we see how the lack of that later on in the round will potentially hurt this team as they use it to mask their breach instead there.
As for the Soniqs, it's going to be patience here early. Need to get these hatches open and begin the regular work of working their way towards the basement. And this is routine now, folks. We've done this a handful of times thus far inside of this one, and this is just typically how you work things on Oregon. Luckily enough, they've cleared out that top floor as we saw Yaga go up there very early on, but he skimpered down towards the basement early on inside of the round just to play out his life, which is going to be way better for Oxygen's win tack here. See exactly what they can get done, though, as the Soniqs just right around the corner, but don't necessarily know which way they want to go with this just yet. It looks like they could go for this drop-through freezers. They're trying to clear up some utility. Rexon will try and hop back down, but nothing really going on just yet. Still so many positions that are unknown to them as Oxygen playing this one pretty close inside of the site.
Soniqs sitting back here waiting again for the opportunity to present itself for them to finally move in and execute towards the site. It's going to be an interesting split of players, though. The Ying solo at the moment, trying to chuck the Candelas in through Laundry. A lot of attention going to be drawn to that, but that's not where the play is coming from, as Yeti starts to push his way in through the hatchwork, and he's not going to be alone. Kansan has some trouble working his way in, though, so he'll be the first exchange in the favor of the OXG roster as he goes down at the hands of Yaga. Stuck in a 4v4, though, with only 15 seconds left. Soniqs now facing that same situation that Oxygen was. They're on a large majority of their attacking half. Oh no! The M590 gets one, but it's the wrong player here. Super carries forward. He gets two on his lonesome. Yeti as well with a third. That leaves the entire defensive structure up to vertical. He's got a chance to deny the plant, but he's not going to be able to do it here. Grixer, though, accidentally cuts the head off of Super, leaving this down to a 1v1. And vertical knows exactly where this player is, but he can't find the shot. Grixer wins it.
Once the plant was being attempted, but they simply couldn't. I mean, the Soniqs just pulling through with so many frags as Oxygen tried to fight back, and really it was all for naught, especially when Super made his play. I don't think anyone was ready for him to flood in through Laundry, especially on the position that he took. Very aggressive up towards the closet wall, able to get those two big kills and immediately start the plant.
Well, Oxygen are going to hit the retry button to see if they can play things out a little bit more successfully this time inside of the basement here. Overall, things are thematically going to look very much the same, especially when it comes to operator picks here. They'll bring that same formulaic lineup. Once again, just hoping that they don't make the corrective mistake that they'll have to try and change up going into the second attempt here of not getting forced off of that adjustment towards the Laundry or the other issues that they faced in the execute there. Soniqs, in the meanwhile, once again, with things going as swimmingly as they did back in the first round, no real reason for them to shift it up, but if they do have a secondary strategy to deploy here, now would be the time to do it, to keep OXG on their toes, having to catch that adjustment.
It's just been a hard-fought game here for Oxygen so far, the scoreline especially showing this, where for Oxygen, these gunfights have just not been favorable. Soniqs, especially Kansan, having a day right now, 10-5. And this is something that we don't routinely see out of Kansan either. He's usually in that middle pack. We see Grixer and Rexion just pop off. Grixer also having a hell of a game, but for Kansan, this has been big, time and time again in the way of Oxygen and just making their lives very difficult.
Soniqs are currently running the same kill death as Kansan there at +5 at the moment there. Rexen a little bit further behind, but with the two of them performing as well as they have been, the lack of a performance from the other two, as well as the contributions from Super that we're seeing occasionally, as well as Yeti here, are also making up the difference and allowing for the Soniqs to win out a large majority of these rounds.
There's only so many kills, though, and Kansan just keeps taking all of them. I mean,
how dare he?
Donate to charity, Kansan. Like, I mean, come on, man. You're in the top 1% here with the 10-5. But as for the Soniqs, these offenses starting to come together as well. These last round especially very, very solid as came through on that 4-2 split. Hoping to extend this now to a 6-2 lead and continue to put the heat onto Oxygen. Soniqs can basically just go about this in a pretty nonchalant manner. They're up 3 rounds. It's a very comfortable spot to be. They're just coasting. It's up to Oxygen to try and heave this mantle, raise up, and try and get something done here in round 8.
Kansan with the same attacking approach we saw from Yaga in the previous half there as he takes the Finka and mounts that up on the position down below the Freezer stairs here. Vertical looking to try to make an aggressive play, but yeah, with the drone spotting him out, that'll pretty much immediately kill that due to the intel being known. Yeti as well as Super still working on opening up those hatches. Super having deployed both of his can openers. His job is done, and now he can focus on getting ready for the actual attack. Still half the round to go, however, so still some time before we more than likely get to that phase of the round here. But still, that doesn't mean the Sonic can't start to push the focus towards that due to how low the time is starting to get. The more that they can save, the more they're going to have to use, and here we go. The execute begins once again. It's Yeti that strikes first for the SQ roster, but Foxy quickly trades that right back into a 4v4, causing some hesitation. That's quickly corrected now as another volley of kills comes in. Foxy and Rexen both picking them up to the deaths of Super as well as Laxing. Both of those players getting knocked out. We're still going to be at even numbers. They're going to close this fight as well here. Vertical's just ready for it, though, as the play comes in. But again, there was another exchange as Kansan managed to take out Kino closer to the front of the site. Rexen walking up. He thinks he's got Foxy, but Foxy gets his 3rd trade of this round by itself, and that leaves everything on Kansan. He's got the intel on Foxy. Still needs to figure out where Vertical's playing from, which is going to be over there towards Pillar. He knows it now as he's taking some heat on peeking out towards it, but he's also pinched here. Needs to play this so carefully to make sure he doesn't take one step in the wrong direction, which will lead to his own head getting cut off in this round, coming to a premature close here. Kansan finds an opportunity, but misses that pixel angle that Vertical has to shoot through, and the management by Pillar isn't up for OXG to finish things off on top of the domination from Foxy inside of the laundry closet.
It was a stellar stage 3 for Vertical and a stellar round for him here as Oxygen will finally get something going on the defensive end, and it was something that was desperately needed. Finally, stopping Soniqs in their tracks. They're sitting 1 round away from getting onto map point. Not going to be changing things up too much here yet for the Soniqs, so we'll see if something comes through for the 6th pick. But for Oxygen, the downstairs area, playing very well into the calamity that went down during that. The Soniqs, the initial execute, have very solid data as to where Oxygen are, but the longer that round goes on and the more that Oxygen's allowed to linger, the more difficult that round's going to be for the Soniqs to take, and that's exactly what happens. Oxygen's positioning all of a sudden becomes unbeknownst to Soniqs, especially for Vertical playing around construction, and for SQ, it's always going to be difficult when it comes down to that. There's so many boxes to check when you run out of intel and you don't have time to jump on a drone, and all it takes is one corner that you don't look into, and they'll be able to get away with some things like that. But for the Soniqs, should be fairly straightforward, as we talked about previously. This is a very comfortable spot to be in.
After another rebound of rounds, we're right back where we started at the beginning of this half at a +2 advantage for the Soniqs. Obviously 1 round closer to our ultimate goal with 7 rounds here, though, so the Soniqs still some slight advantage here. But Oxygen's starting to come alive on their defense with their first successful hold down inside of the basement. We'll see if there'll be similar issues in trying to hold the upstairs, or if they'll have a similar trajectory to what the Soniqs had and have a much easier time of closing this one out due to the extra complexities that are added to this attack by the attackers themselves here as well. They're going to be out and spawned onto the map as of about 10 seconds ago, so time to see what the initial push is going to look like for the Soniqs as they begin to clear out this setup upstairs.
And don't worry, guys, I didn't ruin my Indochino suit by sweating. They're way too nice. They're way too nice. We were sweating earlier, but the quality's just so high, you know? So, as for speaking of quality, actually, we're hoping that the Soniqs have a quality round here. They'll be starting things out over towards showers, as Oxygen obviously going to be working this top floor. It'll be extended out towards attic, but this is something that we see routine. Now, the big thing that we don't see too often is the constant manning of this attic hatch looking down into meeting, and this is something that we could see Vertical use to get a pretty cheeky frag here if it does come through. For the Sonics, it's going to be onto the frag grenades that we saw Oxygen abusing on their side as well, constantly just trying to harass these players in their known positions that are usually held up. You can see him coming through right behind the bunkers right now, but for Kino, this is going to be the most solid spot in the entire room for him to play. Luckily enough for us, Ubisoft made all of these metal, so you don't have to deal with anything flying through mattresses or anything anymore. It's just a better spot to be, especially standing on top of this reinforced hatch.
Be carefully dance around that, trying to make sure he takes out the drone presence. It's working its way through white right now as well, but I saw on that, so Sonics do get a little bit of an information bleed from that drone before it ends up getting knocked out. Still plenty more to deploy later on in the round, as well as 6 available to the squad to be used at any point here. Super, in the meanwhile, is going to be on the buck as well, looking to try and open up some of the floorboards from below this time, and hopefully make the ground that Kino or someone else is going to be standing on a little bit less stable, as we can see him already deploying towards that here, with quite a bit opened up towards the top floor.
This has been absolutely beautiful from the Sonics thus far on their offensive side. Yet he's going to get taken down here in a frost trap of all things. Oh man, the gambit for Oxygen, seen as if the frost mats will possibly work, and just not getting any eyes on Foxay, not expecting that hopping in as they were going to try and attempt the plant. You can see Oxygen playing very far back because of those traps being under the window. They wanted the Sonics to get overzealous, and that's exactly what happened. Now Foxay going to push up and actually defend the case. Kino will get a second frag as Foxay gets yet another. Kansan hopping inside of the window. Grixer and Rexen, last two remaining now for the Sonics with very minimal time, and well, it's going to be all down to 1 very quickly as well. They more than likely know where he is as well. He'll make his presence known. He'll take down Yaga, but we'll see how far Rexen can possibly get. The ARX, a pretty dastardly weapon when it comes down to it, but not one that really favors you in a 1 versus 4.
More than anything, just taking his time with this one, this is going to allow for Super to give it a little bit of information here as we see the attempt from Rexen to pull out the clutch, but let's be real, it's probably not happening. So, yeah, as Foxay swings out there and completes the set, that is going to be OXG taking a second round in a row here as they rocket forward, putting them only 1 round behind what the Sonics have now. Allowing for them to make this potential comeback. A great hold for them and a serious misstep, unfortunately, from Yeti to go down with the case in hand of that frost trap. Unfortunately, the attack seemed like it was dead past that point due to the fact that they were forced to try and go back in and retrieve that, and unfortunately could not.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's always a pretty bad feeling when it comes down to I hopped in a window and died to a frost mat, and that's why we lost the round. You know, because it's kind of cut and dry right there. The case is literally in enemy territory. The only way you get it back is you flood white or get way too many kills on some other end of the map. You're not going to get in that window. Oxygen is going to play with that every single time that situation presents itself. So for the Sonics, it's basically all for naught. And now the huge lead that they have is dwindled down to 1 round. But, I mean, you can, you know, really argue it either way. I'd say fortune favors the brave, honestly, and these last 2 rounds have really been up to the Sonics in the way that they've broken down. So I think there's some adjustments here that they can definitely make in order to make this successful. And we could already be seeing one come through here for Super, an operator that we don't get to see, I would say, enough anymore, John. Even though I know how much everybody at home hates shield operators, Monty will be in here, and the beauty of him is that constant pressure that he emits. You have to be aware of him, because if you're not, you're more than likely going to get a pistol shot in the side of your head.
So time to see if bringing the Montaigne to the table is going to be the boost the Sonics need to finally pick up their 6th round and put them on the edge of map point here to close out the initial map of the series, and as well put them ahead overall there. But Oxygen as well, like we were talking about, has really found their footing as of the last 2 rounds, and with the misstep from the previous one, Oxygen kind of get a free skip on their upstairs site to be able to hold that one, and now are finally forced onto the tertiary site, where again, that is where we oftentimes see the attackers fall, or the defenders fall apart here just due to the complexities that are added into this site. That's why they play it 3rd after all. So Sonics may have their best opportunity yet on this site to try and close things out to find that 6th round indeed. It's going to start with a bit of a top-down clear for Rexen here as he swings into T3. He's going to make sure no one from OXG is hiding out around here, especially in the backstage area, before they begin to push their way closer to the site. Nice ping comes in too, prevents Kansan from possibly overstepping and losing his life early on.
Rexen might be one of the only people that I see use the new Hollow as well, as he'll be using the G36C here on Yana. Clear of top tower, or big tower rather, will go swimmingly here for the Sonics as they begin to clear out utility inside of Kitchen Hall. Laxine will be playing up towards stage as of right now, but this should be pretty easy for Super to waltz on in and try and get some intel onto where these members currently on. They can't really harass him in the same way that they can another person, and he'll more than likely be a magnet for utility use as well. A lot of nitros will be thrown his way, as well as those smoke babes coming in from Kino.
Yeah, he's going to just kind of hold for support here, allow for Super to once again get the can opener down, allow for this team to open things up. Immediate Nitro are going to be chucked out by Laxing, but unfortunately nobody in the neighborhood to take any damage from it, so it'll be a swing and a miss. As the rest of the team deploys in, though, you can start to see some of the inner workings for Oxygen, specifically Vertical, holding that top-down angle, looking to punish any sorts of swings to the inside. Super is going to work himself forward anyway, but he's got a tough task to get into this site with here. Vertical as well, armed with that Nitro to open up the hatch down below here, and once again cause problems for the Soniqs roster if they try to force their way in. Foxy gonna get spotted out by the Gemini, but that's of no huge consequence to him. You only have that small can opener hole opened at this point, and there's literally zero pressure against him. Besides that, you can see Yeti once again trying to open up nades that will put a little bit of pressure back onto Foxy, but he was smart enough to realize that was going to be a potential move here and backed away from the hatch before the nade exploded.
It's on a knife's edge here for round 10 as Oxygen are trying to tie things up here. The last 40 seconds remaining. Soniqs, the strategy thus far has worked out for them, especially with the Monty and Finka combo, getting his health back inside of these fights and actually being almost at 100% HP, although he's been having impacts and everything else tossed his way. Oxygen, as of right now, backed off inside of sight. Super taking a little bit more damage, but he's just trying to oversee what the next step is going to be for the squad. And oh no, how's Vertical worked his way to this position? Oh my god, he's gonna be able to take down one as he works his way up the tower. No one in the space. They actually have case control as Rexon has to try and fight back, and the Soniqs get it down to a 2 versus 2, and they have case control. They're gonna walk inside of Kitchen, yet he's got it from Meeting as well, and oh, Oxygen, it's a blunder from them. Can he get it?
Oh,
Vertical!
no! Vertical!
Oh, prime time. Perfect spot to be. They don't go deep enough inside of the B site. They're not even aware that they have full control of it. They have an Oxygen member all the way upstairs, as well as one all the way over towards tower. And Oxygen able to stand tall here and tie things up.
This is just a tragedy for the Soniqs over the last 2 rounds here. The misstep with a frost trap, and this time just not catching a simple lurk, working its way up the back stairs from Vertical. That was the difference maker, even with those trades coming in from the members of Soniqs that tried to turn things back around there. I believe it was Kansan and Rexon that find those 2 kills. Even with that, once again, Vertical is able to go back down the stairs, redeploy himself at a later point in the round, and shut down the plant due to a player being like 1 step too far out into the doorway.
I just want to know what happened to Yeti in E-Box, because he was playing down in that position for so unbelievably long. He opened up the hatch and just started playing that space to make sure no one can play up and close to stage, because he's more than likely going to be able to find an angle on them. But Vertical, he has to go through that area down low in order to get to Big Tower Stairs, so I don't really know what broke down in that space, but that's just such a big problem for the Soniqs. They had so many good things going for them, but Vertical with a huge play there in round 10 to bring this back, and we're all tied up here on Oregon.
Oh, with things locked dead at a 5-5 scoreline here. Both teams are going to have to work their hearts out to try and close things down, but I think that work is going to weigh a little bit more heavily on the Soniqs here. OXG know they can control all 3 of these sites. They've made the run already. It's just about repeating those same successful strats to shut things down, and they only need 2 out of 3 of them at this point in order to make things work. Obviously, there's that possibility to go to overtime open as well here if the Soniqs can continue to trade things out, but they seem to have run into a brick wall, and very much the same point in the round that Oxygen was also having trouble on their attacks there. It's getting into the site once again that seems to be failing the Soniqs here, as they are just getting ripped to shreds as soon as they reach that threshold.
Well, these squads doing such a solid job of contesting the execute here, making it difficult for anyone to work their way in and try and get a case down. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've only had 1, yes, successful plant across the entirety of those 10 rounds, and that goes to Super on the round that he got both of his kills. He had to fight so hard in order to just get the case down. And it was still a clutch moment there for Grixer as that team shot came through and ended up taking Super down. So
Super stays winning.
Yeah, yes indeed. So as with the Soniqs now, though, going to be a simple clear of the mid floor and get working on these hatches yet again.
Rexon will lead the charge when it comes to trying to put any sort of pressure down onto the launcher area for the time being. Once again, very early on in the round, so no real reason why we'd see the Soniqs try to go for such an early attack themselves. But as we saw back on the first attempt for them to try and get access towards it here, if the time allows them, and more importantly, if the utility is cleared out enough, they have no reservations of hopping into the site in about 10 seconds or so, as I think we saw their first attack at least start at around the 1 minute or 1 minute and 30 mark here. Away from that, though, it seems like things are being played much more in line with what the meta kind of demands of teams on the attack right now, as Soniqs take a slow approach, making sure they open up everything and clear out as much utility as possible from above before they even set foot downstairs.
Vertical It's been seen, as well as the adjustment now coming through to clean up his positioning. This drone's constantly been on him. This is going to be such an easy pre-fire for Grixer. That's just so very straightforward. What's happening, as it usually does in Siege, just a drone that you weren't able to see around your feet or up high, and end up getting pre-fired off from some angle that you really weren't ready for. And, well, Oxygen now worse for wear in this one is Grixer. He's just going to walk down tower stairs. Nothing more, nothing less. He's going to find a frag for it, as well as Oxygen. They have to fight back here. They've done such a good job of tying things up, but now it looks like it's all for naught as everyone's asleep at the wheel. Finally, Yaga will be able to get one as Rexon will just bail into Freezer. Grixer trying to get the refrag here from Pillar, but it's instead him being fragged from Foxay. There's an oversight here. Foxay actually playing on the Warden as well. These glasses so clutch when it comes to those Candelas pouring in on top of you, able to see through all of these stuns. And now for the Soniqs, they're trying to abuse so many different pieces here, especially with this Mav Torch now on the back end, trying to make it a preventable angle, stopping Oxygen from pushing forward inside of stock. It's a 3 versus 3 right now. It's dead even going into the last 10 seconds, but Oxygen have the preferred angles, and Yaga, he'll be able to take down Kansan from Freezer. Yeti will step up to the plate, but Foxay, he's got the cross. This, oh my, it's gonna be Yaga. Space in order to get that execute to go off, so very well done from OXG, as the positioning was just so very strong inside of that one.
All right, so we're going to get back into it now after the tactical timeout for the Soniqs has expired here. They're going to use it quite literally at the last moment they can to try and once again come up with a winning strategy for the attacking side of this upstairs attack. One that, again, Oxygen was able to control for themselves quite handily, but that was mainly due to a mistake that was made by Yeti and the Soniqs, however, so not necessarily proving their worth when it comes to this defensive setup just yet, not really seeing it tested to the full degree. Let's see if this time things are going to go a little bit more swimmingly for our attackers here as they try to even out the scoreline once more at 6-6. Trigger rotate.
Well, lucky enough for the Soniqs, there's no frost mats in this one, so they'll at least be able to hop in some windows safely. And just as a reminder, those frost mats, such a nuisance when it comes down to it, committing you into that 50-50. Either shoot the mats, or try and contest the man that's watching over the mat. But for Oxygen, not gonna have to worry about this one. Like we were talking about before. Rather, we're going to have Foxay on the Wamai with the Jaeger combo here, just really leaning into that utility and making sure that the Soniqs can't bowl over that in an easy fashion. Yaga is going to start things off down low. He's going to get droned out by Yeti initially, but as I thought, immediately start pressing back. Doesn't want to get picked too early on here and give that advantage over to SQ.
Yaga very quickly going to rotate back upstairs here now that he does see the pressure start to work its way in, so especially through small tower there. The Soniqs are once again going to take early control of that for themselves here. A couple other small reinforcements going down. Once again, it's just Oxygen committing to the bunker at this point. We do have a yellow ping going down, I think, on Aquino's position here as he's going to hold on top of the hatch once more here. Not going to see the bucket brought this time by the Soniqs, which they did bring on the first Kids attack there. And that was used in an attempt to kind of force Kino out of position, but never really saw as much use again due to the unfortunate chain of events involving Yeti. So they're going to just ditch that this time, go to probably a much more traditional form of attack. Yeti's still looking for an early potential hop-in over here towards the big window. And more than anything, just got to keep an overwatch on it for the time being while his teammates set up. But either way, good for the Soniqs here inside of the first few minutes of the round here as they try to set up their opening opportunity to work their way in, and this is how they're going to deal with the upstairs hold this time. Nicely done here as we're going to see the hard breach utility used to open up that hatch and make the position for Kino a lot less safer than it was a few seconds ago.
Ace and Habana both so strong when it comes to that ranged hard breach. Able to get rid of a couple of the positions for Oxygen, especially that important one that we saw Kino working the last time they were on this site. Still plenty of time for the Soniqs to get a lot of these jobs done and continue to find intel to influence what they want to do with this last minute. Plenty of solid drone positioning as well. To be able to clear out all of Kids' dorms right now as Oxygen have been pushed back all the way to the east side right now, playing inside of Attic as well as Games Room. And with Soniqs having all 5 men, this could be pretty straightforward. This is looking like a round that could build up to being a bloodbath unless one of these Oxygen members can possibly make a solid rotate. So we just saw Vertical here on the staircase down low, coming up from Freezer, or actually rather the main stairs, and could definitely get something going here for the defense.
Barely a single point of damage on any player here as we go into the final minute of the round. Vertical walking up on a flank, but he's not going to be able to take his target out initially. Soniqs are tearing the defensive setup to pieces, and even more on top of that, the Diffuser now down on the ground as the Soniqs successfully push it through the big window here. Vertical finally commits in on the rotate here. He's going to be able to take him out, but also Kino is lost deeper in the site. Laxing will rotate into Kids to account for the loss of his teammate here. He's also still going to have Vertical pushing in through the connector. Laxing as well, he walks right up onto Rex as no one seems to be the wiser to his position over by Kids, but he will get chased as he tries to hop down. The hatchet super takes him down, leaving all the pressure onto Vertical with only about 10 seconds to make this play work here. And oh no, the angles just don't work out in his favor as Super gets the last kill. The Soniqs tied up at 6-6 to go to overtime on the first map of the series.
And that is how their initial round should have went upstairs. Very forward plant, did not need to dwindle down on time. When they were ready, and they immediately hopped in, got that case plant, and really, really the only thing you could ask for from Oxygen there is kind of a better play from Vertical on that flank. If things go off without a hitch, he's more than likely going to be a much bigger thorn in the side of Soniqs' overall game plan there. But even then, it was really the Soniqs on the front end just winning those gunfights as they come in through the window to get that plant down that made it so difficult for OXG. I really like how the Soniqs were pushing things initially as well. There was just so much space for them to work with, so much room to breathe around that window with the positioning of Oxygen, with the area that they were in with Soniqs initially on that execute. It just made it so very easy. But now into overtime here as Soniqs have guaranteed this in 6-6.
Oxygen unable to find that one final round on the defense, needed to close things down here, but that does mean they get to carry forward with the defensive start as well as a reset on their basement hold here as we go into OT. They'll be able to return back towards it, and unfortunately for the Soniqs, they'll be forced to attack into it once again. Time to see who will come out on top of this one, as if the Soniqs find it, that could be very, very dangerous for Oxygen's chances to still win out on this map. With that being said, OXG does have that slight edge, and they have 2 out of 3 of these rounds on the defensive side over to the Soniqs.
Yeah, a huge favor in the light of Oxygen to be able to continue to play out this defensive side, especially with Yaga's play thus far on this, and we've seen some big plays coming out of Foxy and Vertical as well. One player we want to see highlighted in this overtime has got to be Kano. Would love to see a big play coming out of him in one of these rounds, but you can ask for a lot. That doesn't mean that you're going to get it. So the Soniqs are going to make a couple of adjustments on this offense. The Fink has been dropped. They're bringing in the Rotero drones of Flores to see if they can get rid of some of these harder to reach spots that Oxygen have built up.
Be a bit of a slow building process here. Yeti also popping open that front doorway just to see if there's going to be any shenanigans being deployed up the laundry stairs. Certainly not the case from Oxygen here, as they're sitting pretty much fully in their hold now. As you can see, Vertical rotating all the way back down is flirting with a potential swing up the stairs there to try and check the backstage area and see if there's going to be any deployment from the Soniqs. But as you folks can see at home, there's absolutely nothing deployed to this area. There's nothing really to be gained from Vertical, and making that push this early on, all the focus from the Soniqs is still on those front 2 hatches. And over the next few seconds, we'll slowly see them start to swing back towards the further portion of this map to open up the 3rd and final hatch, and then finally focus on the descent from that point forward.
As we see over and over, time and time again, with this site, it's usually going to be the same thing, the focus on the hatches and breaking things down. And for Oxygen, last time around, Soniqs trying to get very forward with the way that they wanted to handle the basement. Some big picks coming through, especially from Grixer as they pressured the pillar's side. But Oxygen able to battle back in such a convincing fashion, making it difficult for Oxygen, or rather Soniqs, to try and push forward onto them, especially with some of the positionings being so difficult for them to try and suss out initially. Now, trying to get into those same moments here as the timer continues to dwindle. Yeti this time, though, will be on the construction side, seeing what he can possibly get done. But he's got 2 bodies to worry about, specifically Foxy, who's taking the fight right now, and Grixer will not be allowed to come down the tower stairs. Super will get gutted from the smokes as well as Kino with a big double kill now. We talked about it previously, how we wanted to see him with a big round, and it looks like we've got it.
Yeti going to be next up the bat here to try to move it, especially towards Pillar. An opening opportunity
no.
presented against Kino!
No.
And the double swing of unfortunate events for Yeti as Yaga comes right out from the left side of the Pillar hold there, shutting down Yeti on his push right after we saw his opponent go right behind the Pillar itself to remain safe in that situation here. Kino still going to be in play as a result of that misstep from Yeti. And we'll start to see a push deployed over towards the stair to really push out this last bit of attack. presence from the Soniqs here. Rexon is going to have his HP get shredded here, and it won't be too much longer before the only other member of the team gets knocked out as well. OXG take the first round of overtime, and now need only one more yet again.
I love the idea from the Soniqs, especially with the Monty coming through, but they just didn't have everything going for them necessary in order to make that work, especially on the construction side. Just really nothing going on there. Able to bear down and at least put some pressure onto the Oxygen members, but Foxy was just so solid in that position. There's really no way for them to get inside and have influence over that pillar position and make it easy for Monty as well as the other teammate of the Soniqs working down the tower stairs. And for the Soniqs, way too many bodies lost in that situation. So now Oxygen getting their lead back here for first time in quite some time. It's going to be 7-6 in favor of OXG as they'll be 6-picking off of the Maverick and bringing Flores themselves.
Back and forth between these two teams for quite some time, so OXG as they once again push ahead here, and now are also in the driver's seat to try and shut down this map. But in order to do that, they'll need to find success on this attack in the basement, which they have done once before, but since then there's been 2 successful defenses put up by the Soniqs roster, so no guarantees that OXG can light that flame yet again. They try to push things up to an 8-6 victory on map number 1.
This is going to be quite the difficult round on both ends here. It really, I feel as though this is based around how these Rotero drones are going to go, as well as the frag grenades and clearing out this utility, mostly because, especially with the Soniqs, Evil Eyes and the positions that they are, they're more than likely going to be dealing with a couple of these Rotero drones pretty early. So if Foxy can get these past the initial defense of, the intel game that the Soniqs have going on, he's going to be able to get rid of a lot of these positions that the Soniqs have been favoring, especially around these deployable shields, making this so much more difficult for them and allowing Oxygen to actually bear down onto the site in the way that they did the initial time. So for the Soniqs, more than likely going to be trying to play out and get these picks initially, especially around that freezer area. They know Yaga likes to favor that, so could see some adjustments to try and thwart a lot of Oxygen's game plans.
Very early days in the round, so we'll be some time before we start to see that deployment from Oxygen down into the basement, much like we saw from the first minute or so. If the Soniqs attacking round, it's all going to be spent opening up the hatchwork and trying to clear out as much utility as possible from upstairs, such as in that top of the L in the freezer hallway, and a few other positions such as around the pillar downstairs as well, depending, of course, on where OXG want to focus this attack, which have been in a couple different places depending on the round that you have looked at here, namely freezer later on, but that hasn't necessarily panned out as of yet for OXG due to Sonic's setup being positioned specifically to counter a lot of that play out.
Okay, well now for Kino, doing the hard job here. If this is a hard breach, he'll be popping open both of the hatches, but it's been the big change in between these two. Oxygen favoring that Thermite, whereas Soniqs bringing Super on a lot of these secondary hard breach operators and trying to make their life a little bit easier by bringing more influential primary utility. But for Oxygen, still a lot of options out of the gate here, especially with the stuns on Kino, can still get some burn on these ADSs, but no true picks coming through just yet. And actually one of those Rotero drones will end up getting the Evil Eye, just not having the gate open up quick enough to try and get that. Foxy so far doing such a bang-up job on this positioning. Vertical actually will end up pretty deep here with the hologram. This is not the real person, folks. I promise you, as he will be pretty deep here inside of Laundry. Get some solid intel, but nobody will actually take that out, so should have that up pretty soon.
Fortunate that is not the real person once again.
Yeah, that would have been terrifying.
Having the biggest freebie of the round right there, but either Soniqs realizing it or just missing it
now
entirely, but okay. Now he's going to walk in, but he walks a little bit too far as Super catches it from the construction side. Cans it as well. A great pre-fire onto Yogg at the bottom of freezer stairs, and now you just have a 2-player push trying to work their way in. Super did get down over a construction hallway, but retrievable, it looks like, by the hands of Yeti. So we'll see how that pans out in a moment. You can see Kino has the cutoff, however, if someone does try to go and revive Super. I don't know if the angle will work out in his favor, however. And now you've got Foxy also creeping in, looking to capitalize on this, but Yeti gets Kino. Laxing takes out Kansan in the meanwhile in an exchange, and he's still the potential pressure that's going to boil in a second from Foxy. That should confirm not only Yeti, but Super to go down. No, he's been brought back up, so he's still in the fight. Laxing, however, will take out Rexy, meaning everything is now on the newly revived Super to win out the 1v1 versus Laxing. Only 13 seconds left, meanwhile, on the other side of the coin for Laxing to get this case down on the ground here, and he's running out of time. Doesn't even have control of it as well, as he's going to try to shift himself around, wants desperately to take the gunfight versus Super, but he will not give it to him, so time will run out, and the Soniqs will claim round number 14 here on the timer.
You don't need kills to win the game. Just abuse the timer. We saw it earlier with Dark Zero not able to execute within time and end up losing a round round on it. Now Super using that into his favor as well. There's too many variables. Laxing practically swimming in them at that moment as to the position of which Super could be in. And, well, Super, he's just going to play far back and to see if Laxing will actually push into construction, but that never happens. Doesn't get the case either, and now it's 7-7 as Auction will switch back over to the defensive end, and Super will be bringing the buck once again.
Bit of a curveball for Oxygen's site choice, though, is actually not going to head upstairs, the usual expected site choice. Instead, they're going to head down into the first floor hold of their meeting hall and kitchen play, which, I'll be fair to them, that did seem like a much more solid hold overall at the end of the day compared to what we saw on the second floor and the issues that were popping up for them there and how close it was on the second attempt, ultimately going towards the Soniqs there.
It's definitely going to be pretty favorable for them just because of what the Soniqs' choice was for secondary hard breach operator here. With Super being on the buck, that's not going to be as abusable as Ying would be in this situation. You're still going to be able to make some pretty cheeky angles across the board, especially if you do take, top floor control and start breaking up the flooring inside of kids' dorms, which we would expect here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. But we'll have to see what the Soniqs want to go forward with. Either way, still a little slight advantage to Ying in this situation, but Super can get by with anything that Buck has to offer here. So as for the Soniqs, out the gate here in 5 seconds for the very last round of Oregon.
Indeed. Soniqs can excel on their attack, or if Oxygen will finally come out swinging here on that first floor hold and try and shut things down into their own favor and take control of our very first map of the series.
Oh,
Foxy
no!
with the dirty pick, and they can't even exchange it. He makes it safely back to yellow. He's good. He's not going to get traded more than likely now. He is well within his team's territory. That's a freebie for Oxygen right in the opening seconds of the round.
And I mean, guys, you have to feel for Cans in this. He was on cloud 9. Not the organization, but just for the phrase here. 10-5. He's 13-12 right now. He's fallen off a cliff in the kill department. The influence isn't there as it once was. Oxygen making some very serious changes to take advantage of what the Soniqs are doing. I love how Sly Fox was in that situation there, pushing very far forward, getting that initial pick on practically a spawn kill. And not only that, but it's 7-7, something you would not expect in that moment, yet he gets away with it.
So, nice surprise coming in there from Foxy as well. Normally expect to see moves like that come from Laxing of all people. Foxy giving us a bit of a surprise on that as well.
I call him a rat too much, man. Listen, rat is not an offensive term. If anything, it just means that your big brain, like Vert, he knows they're both here. Yeti, what happened, buddy?
Vert's been stealing kills this whole game, man.
They're just not even allowing them in the building. The Grixer's going to sneak in behind, but Laxing's already got his position. This Banshee's also going to give some of that away. Super inside of meeting as well, but Oxygen have so many bodies here. This is going to require so much heavy lifting from the Soniqs.
Vertical continues to get away with an absolute thrashing as he once again finds a multi-kill against the Soniqs attack. Case gonna go down to the ground. Super picks one up, but he's immediately gonna get a nade to the face. 2 trades come out from Oxygen, and that'll shut it down, ladies and gentlemen, as Kino finishes it off with the last kill. Plenty of time, of course, for that counter defuse. OXG will take the map at 8-7 and take the lead in the series at 1-0 as well.
Oxygen flipping the aggressive switch at the proper moment. A lot of very tightly contested rounds and everyone basically playing right on the limit, making sure that they can't be taken out inside of these gunfights, trying to dwindle down on that timer. But that last round, a complete